and welcome to another edition of Future Talks. I'm your host, Superintendent of the Anaheim Union High School District, Michael Matsuda, and as our 8,000 plus podcast listeners know, this show is all about the future of education. And I couldn't think of a more cutting edge issue than game design and esports and education. And we're really lucky to have some of our own people and some of our amazing partnership with Fullerton College here as well. But we got four outstanding guests. We're going to get right into it. Carlos Ayon, the Dean of Business and Computer Information Systems at Fullerton College. We have Carlos Antunez, the Professor of Computer Information Systems at Fullerton College. We have Bijan Kazerooni, a teacher over at Katella High School, and teaching the beginnings of game design. We'll hear more about that. And another teacher, both at Katella High School and at our feeder junior high, South Junior High, Jason Collar. So four amazing people. And let's just start right at the top, Carlos Ayon. Why is game design such a big deal right now in your world and our world? Why should we spend the resources and time to create this pathway?
Right. I think one of the realities of game design is, although we've had some recent downturns and industry challenges with regard to layoffs and whatnot, and some recent disruption with AI, the reality is our long-term outlook and growth is huge, with a need of about 3% of annual growth for game designers and an overall growth of 8% for digital design and web development professionals. This is really looking at demand for growing areas of VR, AR, AI-driven content, cloud gaming, along with other areas such as content creators, much like we see on our social media platforms. So for us here at the college, we're always looking to provide programs where we can give students a livable wage and enter into the workforce relatively quickly. When we were approached by AUHSD about the great work that you're doing with your game design and esports pathways, it was an obvious opportunity for us to partner and look at how we can provide students who are already engaging in building their portfolios at the high school, having good hands-on training and developing good adaptable skills as we look at any kind of tech art or systems design, and really using that passion that they have with gaming and transforming that into a structured academic and career opportunity, partnering together with Fullerton College.
Yeah, a tremendous opportunity is right. As far as I know, we're the first system, K-14 system, to offer a game design pathway in Orange County. And it got on my radar through this teacher, Jason Collar, who's part of our team here, who was trying to get me and some other folks to go to this field trip on a Sunday called Riot Games, right? And I remember just being blown away. We went to West LA, and it was just a mind blower in terms of the excitement and the financial reward for young people. And one of the two buses was filled with students from Oxford Academy, which is the #1 school in the state, but it's also in our own district. And those students were all interested in game design. And that's when I went home over the weekend and I started to look up game design majors, and I spoke with my friends at UCI, blown away that it's one of the most impacted majors. Whether you go to USC or UCLA or any of the top universities, they've all developed a game design major pathway. Jason, could you share a little bit more about what this all means and why you're involved in game design?
Sure. And yeah, that field trip was on a Sunday too, right? So that's telling you too, when we were able to fill up 2 buses and adults and students volunteering their time on a Sunday. And that was a magical experience. But, gaming culture, the gaming community, it's an untapped resource that I think, is overlooked. But there's a lot of potential, as obviously those on this call and those who are in the world know. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, the esports world, game design. And here in Southern California, we're home to a whole bunch of the major studios. And so it's definitely career driven first. You can argue that the carrot to bring students in is the gaming piece, but underneath a video game are multiple CTE career pathways. And so that's what we're trying to capitalize on with our students, industry partners, academic partners, right? And, for me, I've always wanted to bring this element of gamification or gaming into my classroom, even when I was going through my credentialing process. For me personally, I grew up, I'm a gamer. I like the interactive media aspect of things. And it's a way to connect people in different, geographic spaces together, right? Arguably too, even during COVID, during the lockdown, a lot of people relied on, multiplayer experiences or gaming to stay connected. And so there's a lot of benefits to the gaming, but there are also some pitfalls, right? There could be, people argue there's addiction, right? So my approach is, how do we take that passion, the driving question, how do we take the passion for gaming and turn it into purpose, career purpose, educational purpose? And specifically, I found that in Minecraft education, a game I personally never was into or played. And I could speak more on that in a little bit, but
yeah, so you're one of the first teachers in America to teach an elective, a Minecraft elective, which is really about game design. I'm going to shift over to Carlos Antunez. Antunez. I apologize for messing up your name.
No worries.
But here's the question. So you're a professor of computer information systems at Fullerton College. What is the difference between esports and game design? Because, esports is kind of the hook, right? A lot of kids are into esports. And we have both esports and game design at South Junior High now. But Carlos, you're an expert in this. What is the difference between the two, and what is the overlap?
That's a fantastic question, and I think it's important to address because I think with a lot of people involved, and I think sometimes the students ask or their parents ask, and I think it's good to be, to create that awareness. So in the game design, I'll backtrack a little bit and start with just casual gaming as a whole, right? We could consider that as playing a board game, just something light, not necessarily a competing element to it. Game design, however, is going to focus on the career pathways, right? The programming, the technical skills. And so you're going to be seeing things like Unity engines. You're going to be dabbling into C, C#, and really understanding programming concepts, which is exciting in its own way because that touches into business standards, right? You can take your knowledge of game design and apply it to business systems, for instance, right? Like an HR management system. And then the esports, as you had said, Michael, it's really that hook. There is definitely that competitive edge to it, and students really find that engaging because, students do like a challenge, and whether that's in an academic setting or even in a competitive setting, right? They like a challenge. And so touching back to what Jason had mentioned, it's exciting to be able to say, hey, we have something that you're interested in. We want to feel that passion. We want to be able to take them and take them along this journey and say, hey, there is a space for you to compete. There's a space here at at your high school, on our campus, and then even bridging the pathway, right, with other universities. Like you said, UCI is majorly impacted, and their students, often the game design majors, right, are also going to be part of the esports. And whether they're competing internationally or they're competing just amongst themselves, that interest is still shared.
So this pathway begins at the junior high and then goes to the high school, where we start exposing kids to dual enrollment opportunities with Fullerton College. Bijan, you're a history teacher at Katella High School. So tell us about your involvement and what course you are teaching.
Yeah, so I'm a history teacher by training, but like Jason, gaming has been a lifelong passion of mine. And so the idea of teaching a game design or video game development course also came from that passion as well. And so at the high school level, we offer a game development course where students will get a hands-on look into industry standard software, such as the Unity game engine, and begin to kind of piece together like how a game is constructed within either a 2D space or a 3D space. From there, We then start to expose students to the basics of coding and programming, primarily using languages like C, C#, C++, with the ultimate end goal of students in these courses gaining some sort of career certification. And part of that mission that we have here is that when students graduate from our school, they are at this very interesting inflection point where they can choose to continue their education, either going on to a community college like our partner Fullerton College. They can go straight to a four-year university, or they can actually start to pursue a career within the gaming industry, having that certification in hand. Another goal, too, is to show students that working in the gaming industry isn't just about your ability to code and program, but there's a multitude of different job offerings and career opportunities within the gaming space. Besides programming, students can hope to find jobs in business operations, which could include marketing, HR, accounting. There's also the project management side of that too. I actually had a very interesting interaction with someone over this past summer who works for Activision Blizzard on the game Call of Duty. And, right out the gate, he said, you know what, I'm not a programmer, but you ever see those like Mountain Dew bottles or Doritos bags of chips with redeemable codes that you can use to get really cool stuff in game? His job is to create the system or the software that generates these codes and then has an equivalent redeemable digital product for those for a game like Call of Duty. So overall, as long as we're able to take that passion that Jason was speaking to earlier and turn that into purpose, and I think in the age group where we have middle school students, high school students, even those at the community college, gaming is a very strong interest for that age group, and tying that into career, I think, is a great way that we can have students live more fulfilling lives that is filled with purpose and meaning.
So Carlos Antunez, what is the, I guess, the role of artificial intelligence in this exciting mix that we're trying to create? Because everybody's talking about AI, so what place does it have in this?
Yeah, and you know what, Michael, that's again another great question, because I've heard that term, right? And I think in the computer information system, the computer sciences, a lot of people are turning and asking that same exact question because it's hitting every discipline, right? We're seeing it in every scope of life, and so really in our industry, we're finding that we still are at the core. We're trying to teach our students the foundational knowledge that they need, correct? Whether that's the hands-on IT experience or programming or learning how to script, but we are also finding that it's definitely assisting them in practicing or setting up test environments, or even just that embedded tutor where they feel like they can engage with the AI. So it is helping. It is assisting in breaking down some of those higher concepts. Sometimes in the Python class we talk about object-oriented programming, and I've seen some really interesting work from students, engaging with the ChatGPT, right, and say, hey, give me an example, give me another example, or here's my little snip of code. Is this object-oriented programming? And so it's really fascinating to see that now we have this tool that assists. In terms of the esports and the AI, well, I mean, AI's always been around in games. Actually, I think, most of the games that have those challenging features is because there's some type of automated process, right? There's some type of automated engagement, randomness, right? Random occurring events. Fortnite did a great job with the loot drops, right? And so all of that, saying that this technology has always been there. Now we're seeing it kind of more on the consumer side. But it really is exciting to see that, all these developments definitely are going to impact our students, right? And then the goal is to do it in a positive way, where they're still learning that foundational knowledge, but also know that, it's okay in the IT world, right? We spend countless hours sometimes going through documentation, right? Looking at notes, developer notes. And so to have this tool alongside to be able to aid and assist in that is phenomenal.
Dean Carlos Ayon, so we were talking about building a plane while flying it, right? Because this game design pathway has not been created in the region, in Orange County, certainly. So there's a lot of challenges and opportunities ahead. For those people that are thinking about starting a pathway, what have been the challenges to build something like this? And what do you see it being 2 to 3 years from now?
I think for us, some of the larger challenges have been that we're largely building from the ground up, from scratch, and trying to catch up to speed with the great work that AUHSD has already done. And so really kind of building, as you say, with the plane while we're flying, but also trying to scale back and ensure that while we're on campus, ensuring that we get it right for our native students that are here with us and still servicing our dual enrollment students at the level that they need to be serviced. For many of us, that's the balance that we have to achieve to ensure that our partnership is strong and that we have open communication and that we're still building a program that's viable once the dual enrollment students come to us. As we think about moving forward, really for me, it's having that place where students can come and have that they can call home, that sense of belonging, and really expanding and branching out, as Bijan has already said, using this pathway to really provide structured academic opportunities for students and allowing them to explore other areas of game design and the business of gaming. May it be in game design, content creation, streaming, shoutcasting, all of the areas of business and marketing and management that are available to students, and then branching out into other areas across our campus, such as 3D modeling, commercial music, right? All of those other tangential aspects of game design that we don't really think about when we just think about heavy programming. But in 2 to 3 years, seeing a well-developed pathway that students can branch out into and still come back to our esports center and say, you know what, this is my home, while they continue their time through us, and then us moving them on to UCLA, UCI, etc.
Yeah, it's big. Potentially, it's huge. We're excited about that. But I think that one of the challenges is getting teachers and stakeholders to see, our faculty members to see the world differently beyond their own content. Because here you have Bijan and Jason, history teachers, who are integrating. Jason, I know we have a big joint message coming out at our October College and Career Fair with our NOCCD Chancellor, Breland. Could you share a little bit about that, what that might be at the convention center? I know that AUHSD hosts the largest college and career fair in October, or is it October? I think it's at the beginning of November, actually. And we're going to be officially launching this with NOCCD. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 3rd is we're going to have our college career fair, and it's something else. It's, for anybody listening, I highly recommend attending this because we put it on, but there are thousands of people there. It's one of the largest college career fairs around, right? And in the past, it's at the convention center and it's free. Yeah, Anaheim Convention Center. And in the past, the esports wing, because I'm on our leadership team for our district, we've put on like kind of events in the back, so people can walk through and they see esports competition live, what that looks like. We've had our industry partners, but this year, now that we have a plane, we're in the air, right? We're flying it. We're going to really show those partnerships with industry, with colleges, and basically like, here's what we have to offer. I could say, specifically with the middle school, something pretty cool. We talked about, getting other teachers on board. But we're doing an interdisciplinary performance task assessment, and we're going to unveil it ideally at this November 3rd. But can think about arcade cabinets. You go, they're standalone boxes that you play maybe with a friend. You can consider that an esport. But 4 classes at the middle school, we're all working together to create this culminating arcade cabinet and show it off there. So in my class, in the game-based learning with Minecraft education class, we're actually using Make Code Arcade on Retro Pis or Raspberry Pis, and that's gonna be the software, the game, right? And then in our wood shop, they're designing the cabinet, the standalone cabinet. It's built, they're putting all the parts together. In our digital animation course or class, they're creating what it looks like, the artwork for this cabinet. And then students are going to learn how you can market this and sell it in our business tech class. So that's a cross, interdisciplinary CTE culminating thing, and it's really fun. It's fun. The adults are bought into it. The students are bought into it. And this is one way we're showcasing this at this college career fair, and it's one of many things that have come out of it.
One of the challenges in building a workforce pathway is creating this sort of ecosystem, right? That's what we're trying to do with Fullerton College. Bijan, what are some of the exciting things that are happening at Catella in terms of building this ecosystem of game design?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things is just seeing students engaged with the content and building those connections and healthy rapport with those students too. I mean, in my game design class today, we had a very interesting conversation around, hey, what has been a game that has been very frustrating to you, and why did you dislike that game? And so on the surface level, like, it seems like two or multiple gamers talking about video games completely out of context, but within the context, what we're doing is we're showing students how to take that interest and turn it into like some sort of argument. So now we're getting into developing soft skills like communication.
So are there other teachers, as Jason said, at South, there are other teachers getting involved at Catella? Is there sort of this ecosystem of other teachers supporting the game design pathway?
Yes, absolutely. We have our music production teacher who he and I are going to be collaborating in a cross-curricular PTA as well, where my students will create just a very miniaturized version of a 2D game, and his students would create the sound bits and the music that would overlay with our gameplay. So that's one way that we're trying to kind of bridge that gap within our whole CTE department is how do we kind of tie this all into this growing ecosystem, and what are ways that us on the game design pathway, what are skills that we can leverage that might assist those students in the video production side of things, or in their music production classes as well.
That's awesome. And I know that we always try to bring in private partners, and we do have one in Extron, right? Coming in. Anybody want to speak to this partnership with Extron? It's a big company that builds helps in the game design area.
I'll speak a little bit to this. So Extron is one of the largest AV companies in the world, right? And their global headquarters are right down the street from South and Catella, right here in Anaheim, right? And so being this AV, and they're in most educational institutions buildings, right, with their audio video equipment. They found that, hey, there's a growing market for our work in esports labs, designing labs, working with educational partners. And so Extron has invited AUHSD, LAUSD, Riverside, County of Ed, a lot of regional partners under one banner to kind of create a collaboration on, hey, how can we all help each other out? And one of the West Coast person who's the representative for esports, the manager for esports at Extron, he also happens to be the director of esports at Long Beach City College, right? So, and what I'll say, one of the coolest things about this whole game design, esports, is no one's really in competition with each other, even though it's competitive by nature. Together as a partnership, as a collaboration, we're all in this kind of together. And AUHSD, we're looking to host a regional collaborative summit as well. That'll be post-college career fair, but it's just really neat to have Extron with us is fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's really vital that we have a private sector partner. We're talking about eventually building a jobs pathway. Professor, we're running, we just have a few more minutes, Carlos Antunez, but in your world, how much chatter is there about this game design pathway that potentially starts at AUHSD, Fullerton College, UC Irvine, and big companies like Extron? In your world, how big of a deal is that?
I mean, it's big, it's massive, and I say that because I see that even as we said, we're building this plan as we're flying it, so our students are really getting the gist of it, right? But even before this, right, my first semester here at Fullerton College, I was seeing students, share that a lot of their big reason for pursuing a pathway or pursuing computer information systems was related to, I remember my first Nintendo. I remember poking around and looking at, making my first mod on a video game. And so it was really interesting to see that was a commonality, and more of my students were sharing that really was the stepping stone for them. And so we very early on, once I started talking to Ayon and he was telling me, what, the president stood behind and, what you guys were doing over in Anaheim, I was really excited about that opportunity because I said our students have came up the ranks, right? This is what has inspired them. It's something they've been carrying with them. And so now we really are prioritizing, right? And saying, hey, you know, we're not the only ones. UCI, right? The companies, businesses, Activision, all these, you know, this multi-billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar industry that's growing, they're also seeing the value, right? And so now to come out and be able to say, hey, like, this isn't a taboo thing. This isn't just, you know, students just playing video games. You know, there's actual career opportunities. There's an investment here, whether they choose to continue to play recreationally, whether some of them may choose to play, you know, and try to compete. And, you know, like UCI has, I think they had about 12 students they put on scholarships, right? Maybe that's an avenue for them. But then also being able to say, hey, we also can, you know, cater to your interests. Here are some of the classes, right? Maybe you're interested in information technology. You mentioned that you like exploring, you know, going through your games and modifying. You may have an act for programming and development. So it's really just having them feel comfortable and say, you know, at the end of the day, there's pathways to these channels.
Well, you know, we're out of time, you guys. It went by very quickly, and I think definitely on the behalf of our board and our 25,000 students, and I'm sure your board, Dean Ayon, we are going to put AUHSD and Fullerton College on the game design map in Southern California. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.